Hello and welcome to another edition of Tech Tuesday presented by Delta Media Group, where our CRM is very nice. So today we are going to take a look at your listing search display settings, or property search settings. So what this is the different settings that control how the quick search works on your homepage, as well as how the property search works in general. So first off, to get to those, we can either go up here and we can type in search. Typing search into a search box, I know, and then property search, so I can get there that way, and that'll get me to those property search settings. That will get me to quick search settings. That'll get me to search display settings, so I can use these as a shortcut to go directly to those pages. Now the other thing I can do is just click on my gear up here. That'll take me to my main settings page, and we can see we've got property search settings right here at the top. If you don't see it, you can just type that in, and you can see that it'll narrow the results down to just the ones you're looking for. So I'll go ahead and clear that out. Now if I click on property search settings, you can see it brings up a additional box here that lets me select which setting I'd like to go with. So we will start off with quick search settings. So if I click there, you can see it takes me to my quick search settings, and this is going to control how this quick search functionality works on your home page. So when you click in this box and you start typing something in, that page is all about controlling how this thing works. So the first thing we have here is we can limit this autocompleter to only use or only return results in specific states or a single specific state. Now it's going to be limited by the data we have anyway, so this is only really going to be relevant if you are a member of an MLS that is spanning more than one state and you only want to do business in one of them. Otherwise, we don't have data for listings outside of your main state anyway, in which case it's only going to show your state anyway. The other thing to point out with all of these settings is that if you have never filled them out, if you've never completed this page or ever gone in here and manipulated this and saved it, then the system is using the company settings anyway. So whatever the company has set will be used for all of these search settings, but if you want to have unique settings on your own website, that is what these settings pages are for. Now the next thing we have here is the autocomplete kind of preference box. So what this will do is allow you to select which state you want to prefer toward the top of your list in the quick search autocompleter. So if I type in here and there are results in more than one state that match what I typed in, I want my state to show up at the top. So to do that, I'm just going to go in here and I'm going to say I want to do Ohio, so I'm just going to grab that a bit at a time here and drag it up to the top. And now that's going to be the preferred state in the quick search. Again, only if you want to change away from the company set defaults would you want to change that at all. Now moving down, the next piece we have is you can choose which states will show the street name and number on all of the property results it finds. So this is only for when you actually search for a property. Let's see if we can get something to come up here. There we go. So all of these are within my home state, or the state that I have set up in my settings. So it can always show the full property address on those. You can select which states it will do that for here. So if there were, maybe you did want to return data in more than one state, but you only wanted those full addresses to show in one of them, you could select that one state here. And with all these settings, if I want to select more than one thing, I can click on it and then hold down my Command key on a Mac, or if I were on a Windows machine, hold down my Control key, and that allows me to select and deselect these items. Otherwise, if I just click, it'll just pick the one that I click on. So the next piece we have here is I can relabel my subdivisions, so I can have subdivisions show up as something else. If I go here and I type in Jackson, you can see we have a Jackson subdivision right here. If I don't want that labeled as subdivision, I just want to use a different word there, like maybe neighborhood or area, something along those lines, I could type in another word for that here in this field, and that is the word that would be used instead. Now the next thing I can do is I can restrict the property search or the quick search dropdown to return only results from specific or results of specific types. So right now it'll return city, borough, neighborhood, and I just clicked on one, so now I can't see which ones. But the whole point here is everything that is selected is stuff that will be excluded. So if I don't want to be able to see, maybe I don't have reliable data for the individual schools, and maybe I don't really look at post office in my area, I don't really look at borough. So with it set up this way, that means people can search with my quick search based on city name, neighborhood name, school district, subdivision, or zip code, and that's it. If I do have good data for actual individual schools in the area, maybe I want to take out school district and just allow people to search by schools, so I can open those up. Or I can even change this up a little bit. Let's say that neighborhood doesn't have reliable information in my area, so then I could search by city, school district, individual elementary, higher, middle schools, as well as subdivisions and zip codes. So that allows you to determine what will show up. Now if I go here and type, for example, you can see I typed in Jackson, so I found a match for school district and subdivision. If I had taken out subdivision so that my search couldn't return that, then only the school district would have shown up. So that's how that setting works. Moving on down the line, the next thing we have here are the search or the property statuses we want the quick search to return. So by default, if I use the homepage quick search and I run a search, I only have active selected. So that's only going to return active listings. So if I were to choose an area here and click search, that'll take me to a results page that's only going to show actives. Now if I want by default that page to show contingent, pending, and coming soon also, I can select all those, and now it'll return listings of all those different statuses. So I can get all those on the page, or maybe I just want to leave out pending. So I have some options there as far as what I do. Now once the user does land on that page, they have the option of changing what they're seeing. So right now it shows me the default result set, and that's what I control with that setting. But if I go to listing type, I can still choose these manually. If I'm the customer, I will leave out sold. If I'm the customer and I want to see properties of those other statuses also. So just because I'm limiting the default doesn't mean I'm actually limiting the customer to only being able to see that. It just means that's what they'll see at first, and then they can change it if they want to. Now the next piece we have here is the auto submit on selection. So this is off by default, but what this does is when we go back to the home page here, if I type in an area, when I click on it as it is, it doesn't actually submit the search. I click on it and then I hit the search button and now it runs the search. Or I could click on it and press enter and it would do the same thing. If I switch this setting to true, what it'll do instead is when I go to this page and I type in my area, when I click on it, at that moment it would actually submit the search. So I wouldn't have to have the extra step of clicking that search button there. Now the last piece we have here is the auto-completer example. Again, like all the other settings here, this is going to look at what the company settings are to fill in that whole example section. But if I wanted to use different area, like let's say you're in a big area, the brokerage covers a large area, and you work in a specific area that's like a subset of the companies, and you want that example to show a property or property information that's more relevant to the area that you specifically work in and not the one the company set, you can fill out all these fields to have the system do that. So when I click here, you can see these search examples come up, and they're filled in with Canton, Ohio in this case because it's our demo site. All of these things would be what your company site is set, and then if you wanted them to be different, you could fill all these in and save it, and then it would show your options set here instead. So there you go. That is the quick search settings. So in all of these cases, whenever you make changes here, you have to click Save Changes down here at the bottom to have them save. Also, you might not see them take effect right away. That's kind of part of your browser session, so it might take a little time for that session to clear, for the cache to clear, and you to be able to see those changes. So that's just something to keep in mind while you're using these. All right, so the next one. Now, we do have some shortcuts up at the top that get us to the other different search settings, but we're going to go back to the other page. So we'll go back to the settings page, click on Property Search Settings, and now Search Display Settings will be the next one. So as this loads up, you see first we have the ability to select the default state. Again, like the quick search settings, it's going to pull from the company's settings, but if you want to customize those, we can click here and select our state. Let's do beautiful Ohio. There we go. And now once I've saved this, it'll give me some additional options to make changes here. So we'll go ahead and update that. There we go. And refresh our page. Let's see if it's going to cooperate with me updating. There we are. So now that I've selected Ohio, you can see that I have some additional options to select what I want my search defaults to be. So these mainly pertain to a form that we used to have, one of our older search forms, where there were more selectable items like a county that would show up by default. So right now the county effect, or the county, is not really used on those. Default high and low price, the default search type, search statuses, city. Right now all of these things will limit specifically an older version of the search form, like an older version of the advanced search, where it would actually lay all these things out. So generally these settings are no longer used. Now the one that is is this gallery view setting, gallery or map view. So by changing this, that's going to determine the very first listing results view type that the customer will land on. So as it is now, if I click on search and that's set to gallery, then it's going to take me to this view. I, as the customer, can change my results view over to map view if I want to. So now I'm looking at the map view, and it's going to remember what I chose. So if I'm a customer and I come back to the website later on, it's going to remember the selection I made there as to the view that I prefer. What you can do with this setting is you can determine what it is that they will start on. So if you want them to start on the map view, you can change that to map. I'll just set that back to defaults because, again, none of these settings are used anymore, so keep that in mind. Or not used with the newer search pages, I should say. So we set that back to default, and then let's say I want to start my users on map, so I'll go ahead and select map for that. And again, it's sticking to gallery. I'll just refresh the page here. There we go. Now we're on map view. Now the next piece we have here are the search limits. So what this allows you to do, again, this is going to look at the company settings, because the company does have the ability to kind of limit all the agent sites down to only returning listings within a specific state and specific counties. But if you work in a smaller subset, or you do most of your business in only specific counties within all of the group of counties that your company actually works in, you can use this setting to make it so that your website will only return listings within the counties you work. The nice thing about that is that if a customer comes to your website, they start searching for properties, the only properties they find will be those within your service area. So that way you don't get requests for listings that you're not really interested in working with. But to make this work, I would go ahead and select a state here. So let's do Ohio again, because why not? And now I'm going to go here to counties. I can type in county names to narrow this list down to make it a little easier. And then I just put a check mark next to that. Let's say I also want to do, if I can type here, Ashtabula County. So we'll type that one in and check mark it. Or I can just search for nothing, and I can just scroll down the line here and select the ones I want. Now once I've selected all the counties that I want to work in, I just hit add new limit, and then that adds in my search limit. So now we have Ohio with 5 selected. I can add in an additional one for even a different state if I wanted to. If I want to add additional counties to this state, I would do so here. Just make those changes and then hit update. But if I wanted to add in a second state, then I would have to do that down here. So I'd select the second state, its counties, hit add limit, and that would add the additional limit. And then if I want to remove it, I'm just going to click on delete search limit. Okay. And it's all gone. So there you go. And now the next piece we have here is the ability to change your default map view. So when a user who hasn't searched for a property, they haven't restricted their search at all, they land on the map search page for the first time. So we'll go ahead and switch this over to map view. When they land here for the first time, it is going to be centered and have the zoom level that you have selected in the setting here. So this is going to be their default map view. So from here, if you want to have it, again, if you're working on a very specific area, then maybe you'll center the map a little bit differently so that it's centered on your area. Just that way, whenever the user hits the map search for the first time, they're kind of looking at the area that you do the most business in and that you're the most interested in. Or really the most interested in getting business in, I should say. So there you have it. To set that up, you would just go down here, scroll it to where you need, zoom it out or in to the level you need it to, and then hit update default map, and that's going to update that default map. Just like the quick search settings, this one could take a little while to take effect. So there you go. That is how you can manipulate those default search settings. Now the last settings piece we have here, we actually went over in last week's Tech Tuesday, but that is the listing display settings. So again, like the other one, I can click on it from here, or I could go back to the settings page, settings, and then property search settings, and then listing display settings, so I can get there either way. And then once I find my way here, I have all the settings that are available to me when it comes to listing display. So again, last week's Tech Tuesday went over this page in detail, but just real quick, what this page allows you to do is manipulate the mortgage link so that will show up in the mortgage calculator on your listing detail pages. And we'll close an area out here. There we go. So now we have some properties. So if I click on a listing and go to the detail page, if I scroll down to the mortgage calculator, that is where that shows up. So these settings allow you to change what that link looks like and where it goes. And then if we scroll down a bit further, we have settings that control the featured listings that show up on your home page. So that's actually the home page of your website. We have some additional settings that allow you to control the listings that show up on your My Listings page. So even though it's called the My Listings page, it doesn't necessarily have to have only your listings on it. So that's what this is for. And you have some settings to control whether or not property videos will show up on the detail pages based on whether or not they are your properties or company properties, anything like that. Same goes with virtual tours. Some settings for controlling how open houses are displayed on the site and how sold listings or which sold listings are displayed on the site. So there you have it. For details on these settings, just go ahead and check out last week's Tech Tuesday, and then you'll have more information on those. So, as always, thanks a lot for joining me. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to send an email into support@deltagroup.com or give us a call, and we will be happy to help you out. Thanks a lot for joining me, and I will see you again next week.